Hello, students, and welcome back to IS Express. Today, in our series Indian Polity through Mindmaps, we delve into the Transformative Charter Act of 1833, a legislative milestone that reshaped British India. Our focus will be on understanding its context, implications, and the broader forces at play during its enactment. The Charter Act of 1833, also known as the St. Helena Act 1833 or the Government of India Act 1833, marks a pivotal moment in the history of British rule in India. It wasn't merely a legislative measure but a beacon that signaled the increasing control of the British Crown over the Indian territories. This act laid the groundwork for significant changes in India's administrative and legal landscape, setting the stage for a new era of governance. But why was this act so significant? To understand this, we need to look back at the historical backdrop of its predecessor, the Charter Act of 1813. You can watch our previous video on the 1813 Act by clicking the link at the top of this video or in the description. The transition from the Charter Act of 1813 to that of 1833 reflects the evolving British policies towards India and their implications for its people and economy. It's a narrative of change from trade monopoly to administrative control. Industrial Revolution and laissez-faire. A crucial element in this story is the Industrial Revolution, which took place between 1760 and 1820, primarily in Europe and the United States. This era witnessed a monumental shift from traditional, manual manufacturing to mechanized production, ushering in significant economic transformations. Closely tied to this epochal change was the emergence of the laissez-faire economic philosophy. Advocating for minimal government intervention in business, laissez-faire argued that economic success was more likely when government stepped back and allowed the free market to operate unhindered. This principle influenced British policies towards India, especially in terms of trade and industry. Objectives of the Charter Act of 1833. One of the primary objectives of the Charter Act of 1833 was to put an end to the trade activities of the East India Company, marking a shift from a commercial entity to an organization focused on governance. This transition was not merely administrative but signified a deeper change in the relationship between Britain and India. Additionally, the Act allowed Europeans to settle in India, further increasing European presence and influence within the country. This decision had far-reaching consequences for India's political and administrative landscape, altering the fabric of Indian society in profound ways. Continuing our exploration into the Charter Act of 1833, let's delve deeper into its key provisions and understand the transformative impact they had on India under British rule. Office of Governor-General. The Act centralized the administration under the Governor-General of Bengal, who was then redesignated as the Governor-General of India. This shift aimed to streamline governance across British-held territories in India. Lord William Bentinck had the honor of being appointed the first Governor-General of India, marking the beginning of a new era in Indian administration. Powers of Governor-General's Council. The legislative authority was significantly enhanced, granting the Governor-General's Council the power to repeal, amend, and alter laws in British India. This centralized decision-making authority had far-reaching implications for the legal landscape of the country. In matters of disputes and control, the Governor-General's decisions prevailed, emphasizing the centralized power structure. This authority extended to civil, military, and revenue matters, ensuring comprehensive control over the governance of India. Abolition of commercial privileges. The Act ended the East India Company's trade monopoly, marking its transition from a commercial entity to one focused on territorial and administrative roles. This was a pivotal change, aligning the company's functions with the British Crown's colonial ambitions. It established that territorial possessions were held in trusteeship, signaling a shift towards a more government-oriented approach in managing India. Legal British colony. Restrictions on Europeans and British subjects regarding property acquisition, travel, and residence were removed, facilitating a freer movement and ownership. This essentially reinforced India's status as a British colony. Placement of Board of Control. The president of the Board of Control was replaced by a Minister for Indian Affairs, streamlining the governance and administrative oversight from the British government side. Financial centralization. Financial powers were centralized, transferred to the Governor-General's Council, indicating a move towards more unified and controlled governance in financial matters. Formation of Law Commission. The Act led to the formation of the Force Law Commission, chaired by Lord Macaulay in 1834, tasked with the codification and consolidation of Indian laws. This initiative was significant for its role in the codification of laws, including the drafting of the Indian Penal Code. Open competition and merit-based civil services. The Act abolished restrictions based on religion, caste, and creed, introducing competitive examinations for the selection of civil servants. This marked the beginning of an inclusive meritocratic system, laying the foundation for a diverse and representative civil service in India. Abolition of slavery. A directive to end slavery in British India was included, culminating in Act 5 of 1843, which formally abolished slavery. This was a landmark move, signaling a shift towards more humane governance. Increase in the number of bishops. The Act also sought to strengthen the presence and influence of the Church in India by increasing the number of bishops. This move was reflective of the British intent to reinforce their cultural and religious influence in the country. Now let's explore the Act's broader significance and the lasting impact it had on the fabric of British India. Administrative restructuring. Centralization of administration. The re-designation of the Governor-General of Bengal as the Governor-General of India, with Lord William Bentinck being the first to hold this title, was a strategic move towards centralizing power. This centralization facilitated more streamlined governance, allowing for uniform policies and administrative procedures across British India. End of commercial activities. The Charter Act marked the end of the East India Company's commercial activities, transforming it into a solely administrative body. This shift underscored the British Crown's increasing control over India, reflecting a change in British objectives from trade to direct governance. Legislative powers. The Act consolidated legislative powers under the Governor-General and Council for the entire British India, a privilege previously shared with the governors of Bombay and Madras. This consolidation was pivotal in unifying the legal and administrative framework across India. Legal reforms and representation. Codification of laws. The establishment of the Indian Law Commission, chaired by Lord Macaulay, aimed at creating a uniform legal system across British India. This endeavor towards codifying laws was instrumental in laying down the legal foundations that would eventually influence the Indian legal system. Inclusion of Indians in government service. A revolutionary aspect of the Act was its provision for the employment of Indians in government service based on merit rather than birth, color, religion, or race. This opened up opportunities for qualified Indians to participate in the administration of their own country, a significant step towards inclusivity. Socio-political impacts. Mitigation of slavery. The Act aligned with the broader abolitionist movement across the British Empire in 1833, contributing to the mitigation of slavery in India. This was a notable advance for human rights within the colonial context. Tilt towards Christianity. The establishment of Christian institutions and the increase in the number of bishops under the Act reflected the British intent to spread Christianity in India. This move was indicative of the socio-cultural shifts that the British sought to introduce, influencing the religious landscape of India. It's time to examine the drawbacks and criticisms associated with this landmark legislation. While the Act introduced several progressive reforms, its implementation and certain structural changes posed challenges that impacted its effectiveness in British India. First drawback is the centralization of power. The re-designation of the Governor-General of Bengal as the Governor-General of India centralized immense power in a single individual's hands. This centralization faced criticism for several reasons. Overburdening the Governor-General. Concentrating administrative and legislative powers in one person made the role exceedingly demanding, affecting decision-making quality. Lack of local representation. The absence of representatives from various presidencies in the Governor-General's Council meant that local interests and issues might not be adequately represented or addressed. Ineffective control over remote presidencies. Due to the absence of efficient communication tools at the time, centralizing power made it challenging to manage and control remote presidencies effectively. Second drawback is the representation and participation. A significant drawback of the Act was the complete absence of Indian representation in both the legislative and executive councils. This exclusion meant that Indian perspectives and interests were likely underrepresented in governance. Additionally, the provision for open competitions in civil services, which could have fostered inclusivity and meritocracy, faced opposition from the Court of Directors, delaying its practical implementation. Third drawback is the practical implementation of reforms. Despite the Act's provisions for social reforms, including the abolition of slavery and the establishment of Christian institutions, its impact was limited. The practical implementation of these reforms faced numerous challenges, reflecting a gap between legislative intent and on-ground reality. Although the Act contained directives for ending slavery, the actual abolition took a decade to formalize, highlighting a gap in the Act's enforcement capabilities. Moreover, the Act's impact on broader social reforms, including the establishment of Christian institutions, was constrained by various factors, from societal resistance to logistical challenges. The codification of laws, a task undertaken by the newly established Indian Law Commission, also faced hurdles. Challenges in codifying and implementing legal reforms meant that the benefits of such an endeavor were not immediately realized. In sum, the Charter Act of 1833 was transformative, marking a departure from mercantile dominance to direct imperial control. It set in motion administrative consolidation, legal standardization, and socio-political changes that would shape the trajectory of British India. For UPSC aspirants, understanding the multifaceted significance of this act is crucial, as it offers insights into the evolution of colonial policies and their enduring impact on India's governance and legal systems. Thank you for watching our deep dive into the Charter Act of 1833. If you found this exploration insightful and helpful for your understanding of Indian polity, please consider showing your support. Like this video to let us know you appreciate the content, share it with friends or fellow aspirants who could benefit from these insights, and don't forget to subscribe to IS Express for more in-depth analyses and discussions on Indian polity through Mindmaps. Your engagement helps us bring more valuable content your way. Thank you once again for watching, and stay tuned for our next session.